we could.
Exactly, yeah.
What about? Does the canvasser or the person that gets the signature have to be a registered voter in that riding?
That's a good question. I know they have to be a registered BC voter. I don't think that they have to be registered for that specific
Because
riding.
I'm using myself as an
Yeah,
example.
in most cases they will be, but I don't know if
In
they
this
have to
in
be.
this house, for instance, I am going to have 450 people come through the doors of this house to get their tax returns done. Forget about the mailed ones.
Yeah.
I'm going to have about that many people that will actually show up at the door.
Yeah.
And starting at April the 8th, most of them about half of them will be after the April the 8th and the other half before. But they're going to be from
all
20
different ridings.
20 or 30 different ridings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so can I have...
I see what you're saying.
Can I have...
Could you sign them onto a petition
Can I have
sheet?
20 different petitions for each riding that somebody's coming from?
That's
like
a
you're
great
here at this,
question.
You're
Yeah.
here at this house right now.
Yeah.
What riding are you in?
I'm in Port Coquitlam.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could I, is there any reason, Nick's North Vancouver, you are Port Moody. No, you're Pitt Meadows.
Maple Ridge, yeah.
So is there any reason why I can't have, and you're not in our riding either, I think you're in one over, the lines goes up Lonsdale. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 ridings right now with 5 people in this room.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that, and I'm going to
There's
check
something
this.
for you to find out.
Yeah, I'm going to
because-
find out for sure, but I'm guessing that you wouldn't even need several petitions. You would just have the one, people sign it wherever they're from,
And as long as
and
you got
then
the address
we
on there.
apply
Yeah.
those to that riding.
Yeah.
Because we only need 10% of signatures from every riding. So if you're from that riding, your signature would then be applied. It doesn't matter where it was collected.
Yeah.
You're,
Well, I'm
you're
just
from
trying
that
to-
riding. So,
And like- and
but
tomorrow-
I'll check that.
And tomorrow night at the Langley Events Center, I've got, with Fred Snyder and Ozzy Jarok and I have got 300 people coming to
Yeah,
the
it'd be nice
Langley
to sign
Events
'em up.
Center from
Yeah.
all over the Lower Mainland.
If the polls are right, you'd get about 280 of them to sign it. So
Yeah.
So, you see, it would be convenient if we could, since we're doing the
We could
seminar
throw
anyway,
HST signing parties.
yeah.
right?
That's great to know, David, and I'm really glad you asked
So
the question. So
let's
I will
make
check into
sure
that.
that's, because that's the kind of thing that we can now go out and get a whole bunch of people who, I'm going to call them like-minded people, to do it. And you get places like, you know, I don't know that you'd get Save On Food stores or anything like that doing it.
Right.
But because some of them don't even want guys selling poppies at their
No.
place. But it seems to me
The
that,
restaurant, a lot of the restaurants are going to do it, particularly the small
well,
private.
the restaurants all seem to want to do it, don't
Yeah.
they?
Well, they're doing their own campaign right now, which is fine. I mean, they've got their own umbrella group. But I think what's going to happen
But
is...
for this though, to get the vote, they need to have
Yeah.
the signature.
Well, I think a lot of the associations of the various businesses, whether it's restaurants or funerals or construction or real estate, are going to see that this is their best chance to actually affect a change. And we're hoping that they'll come in and get behind us in one way or another, support us either through having the restaurateurs, you know, have the petitions in their restaurants, places where we can gather signatures, and or even financial support
But
because
they have to be witnessed, so the restaurateur actually has
yeah,
to be registered.
yeah. The servers will have to become canvassers, and
Well, they
a lot of
could
them are happy to because you know who's going to get stiffed the most
Oh,
on
yeah.
the HST
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
servers.
Yeah.
Because truth be told, you go into a restaurant, you go, well, it's 7% more. Okay, well, the tip's only 5% or 10% now,
Yep.
right? Instead of 15 or 20. And so it's those servers that are going to get hit the hardest there.
Well, it certainly makes sense. Now, Richard, you brought up something when we were talking before Chris came. You said that you did something. You said, well, even if we get the signatures, they can't.
Yeah, there's
they're
a
not gonna
question
do it.
about whether or not the government is actually required to vote on on passing the bill.
So here's, just to clarify
Let's
for
get
everybody.
that. Let's get that. I know you'll have
Clear
an
this
answer
up.
for this.
So the law, the Initiative Act, stipulates that if we're successful and we get the 10% of the signatures in 85 ridings, the government must,
Have a
by law,
referendum.
do one of two things. No, they have two choices. They can put the bill that we've prepared to a standing committee of the legislature, which will then present it to the legislature for a vote. Or they can conduct what's called an initiative vote. It's not, in technical terms, a referendum because a referendum is binding. The initiative vote is not. But they can have an initiative vote, which is a province-wide referendum, and or legislation can be put to the House and they can vote on it. The effect of that is mostly political because they could vote the bill down.
Yes.
They are obliged to vote on the bill, but they
Right.
could vote it down. But at that point, it becomes really a political decision. Do you, especially if this is the first one that's ever been successful in 20 some odd years of having them, and you're going to turn around and slap the people in the face and say no. There'll be a political price to pay for that.
Right.
The other great thing is we have a three-pronged approach here. So this is step one only. Step two may be a recall campaign. Now, by the time we come out of an initiative, especially if we're successful, and we have 4,500 volunteers,
Yep.
we can bring a whole bunch of those people into specific ridings, particularly the Premier himself maybe, and a number of others, and recall them. We can't actually affect recall campaigns right now anyway. It's 18 months until after an election before you can do one. So the first thing that was up to bat available to us was the initiative.
Can't be done until next November.
That's right, can't be done until November. But by then, we may have an army in place to be able to actually go and do that, so we can recall MLAs that vote in favor of it against their constituents. And there's a number of them, about 12 to 14 that we've identified, that won their seats by very small margins. So those could turn quickly. So that's another step. And then the third step really is a constitutional challenge, where we say that Section 92, Paragraph 2 of the Canadian Constitution Act stipulates that only the provinces can levy and set and collect provincial taxes for raising of provincial revenues.
Right.
And the way they've gotten around that on this one is they've signed an agreement with the feds. The HST, for those that don't know, is a 100% federal tax, of which they will share a portion with the province in exchange for the province agreeing not to legislate on provincial sales tax.
Right.
So they're doing indirectly that which they're prohibited from doing directly. And as you know, in contract law, that's illegal.
That's illegal,
You can't do
right.
that. So that's another opportunity to address the problem from there.
Okay, so they don't have to do anything, but if they don't, it's likely political suicide. And how many seats? What do we have to do? 6 seats to upset?
You have to turn. You have to. Yeah, there's a difference of 14, so you would have to recall 7.
We would have to do
7
7
MLAs.
to make it
Yeah.
even. Okay.
And if those 7 were recalled and 7 different MLAs were put in place, then you'd have a change of government.
Now, have we still got the NDP? Because we had.
Yeah, the NDP is still very
speaking,
much on side. Yeah, Carol James has been really terrific. Actually, I have to.
She
give
did a good
her
speech.
credit. She gave a good speech, but and I don't agree with a lot of the things that she stands for, and people know that. But she has shown really tremendous integrity on this. She has not tried to steal the limelight or capitalize on it. She's just simply against it. She realizes it's wrong, and she's saying, whatever support I can give, I will do. And it would be very easy for her to try and upstage Bill and use her presence, as the opposition leader, to suddenly take the movement over or any other number of things. And she hasn't done that. She's been respectful that this is a people's movement, and she's participating whatever level she can.
We've got a
so
question
she
from
gets
the net.
kudos for that.
We've got a question from the net. What happens if the recall is successful? I guess we're talking about on a MLA basis. What is the procedure to replace the MLA or the Premier?
Right. So what happens in a recall is you have to have 40% of the registered voters in that constituency sign the recall petition. If that happens, the MLA is immediately essentially fired. They're removed from office, and a by-election is then held at some point. The government usually has the decision-making as to when that by-election will occur, and they would probably play that out for some time if they could.
How long can they put it off? 4 or 5 months?
That's a good question. I think they've got somewhere between 6 months and a year to actually do it. I seem to recall that some of these things have taken a while.
So
there is a time limit.
With 14 in the balance, then really what you want to do is you want to get 15 fired.
Well,
and then you actually...
Well, like I say, if you get 7 removed, right?
But if you get 15 removed, you immediately have a change of government. You don't have to wait for the
well, no, with 7
by-election.
with 7 you do, because if the Liberals have a 14-seat lead and you take 7 of their seats away, right? Then you've actually doubled the number when you turn it, right? Because you have to do the math on it, but
well, he's got it right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If you take 15 away, then
You have an immediate
then
change
you
of
don't
government.
have to have an election to have more. If you only take 7 away, you have to replace them with 7 NDP to change the balance of power.
I got you.
But
I
if you
got
take
you.
15
But if you
away,
take 15 away, you've
right
got
now,
an immediate
yeah,
change of
they
government.
immediately, the government collapses because
That's
they
right.
don't have a majority.
They don't
no
have enough
longer have a
seats.
majority.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you've got a big enough army, I guess you could
you
attempt to
only
do
need
that.
7 or 8 if you're going to have an election.
Well, and it's all political, zeitgeist or whatever they call it, where if the public is in that kind of a mood where they want blood, they're furious that the Premier has thwarted them, you might be able to recall 15.
Yep.
But again, that's very onerous too. 40%, that's huge.
That's
a lot of knocking on doors.
That's getting a lot of voters out.
Closest they got was Paul Reitzman on the island, the guy Warren Batanko, the letters that he sent.
He resigned, but he just voluntarily resigned.
He didn't
so
wait until they actually did. They would have done it, but
yeah. So it's an intriguing situation, and the thing about this is politics has strange bedfellows, because been up on the stage there with Carol James and Vicki Huntington and Bill
Bill.
Vanderzem and some of the other people that were out there.